Check this out, full frame cinema zoom lenses from Laowa that are small enough and lightweight enough that I can run around Alaska with them with a backpack, doing documentary and production work that cover from 28 to 180 millimeters in 2 lenses, under $6,000. If you're like me and you've been waiting for a set of small, lightweight cinema zoom lenses that have really high performance for something like an FX6 or a Alpha series camera, Laowa recently released the Ranger series, and I've been using them for the last few weeks, running around Alaska. I gotta say, they're fantastic. But first we need to ask the question, why would you want cinema lenses over something like a great photography lens that Sony produces for Sony cameras? And there are a couple of different reasons. One is that cinema lenses are designed and produced to be used in video production. So they're durable, they're built very, very well, and they have a few specific features built specifically for video in mind. The first being that they're designed with T-stops, or measured in T-stops, and that is the exact amount of light going through the lens and getting to the sensor, whereas f-stops, the traditional aperture measurement on photography lenses, can vary between different lenses and between different pieces of glass. The next is you'll see that they all have gears on the focus ring, the zoom ring, and the aperture ring, or if it was a prime, just the focus and the aperture. That's designed so that when you switch a lens, say from the 28 to 75 here to a 75 to 180, you don't have to change any of your focus motors or anything like that because everything is built to line up the same and to be the same size. So that saves you a lot of time when you're switching lenses, either primes or zoom, and switching between focal lengths. But that's not all. Another thing that you'll notice on cinema lenses is that they have focus rings with hard stops. That's important for focus motors, but also they have a really long focus throw, which allows you to be very precise about where you set your focus, especially if you're shooting or filming at shallow depths of field. And another thing that makes cinema lenses different than photography lenses is good cinema lenses should be designed to be both parfocal and have minimal focus breathing. Parfocal is essentially that you can set the focus point on a zoom lens and then zoom in or zoom out, and the focal plane shouldn't change. In other words, the image that you want to be in focus, the part that you focused on, should stay in focus. And these do a really good job at that. When it comes to focus breathing, that's a whole nother issue. You can see here a photography lens has a lot of focus breathing because they're primarily concerned with getting a good still image, not necessarily video. But for video, it can be really distracting having the framing or what's in the frame change quite a bit between your near focus and your far focus. So good cinema lenses should have as minimal focus breathing as possible. And again, the Laowa Rangers control the focus breathing really, really well. Now, full disclosure, Laowa did send these to me, but they're not paying for this review. They get no input into this video, and they don't get to see this video before it's launched. Now that we've covered why you might want to use cinema glass if you're shooting primarily video, let's talk about these lenses specifically because they're really fantastic for the price. Not only are the optics really good, and it really shouldn't be surprising because Laowa has been producing great optics for a long time. I've had their lenses going all the way back into 2017 or 2016, I think. These are no exception. The engineering on them's really well done. The focus ring is got a great amount of throw to it. It's smooth and well dampened. Same thing for the zoom and same thing for the aperture. They're all really well engineered. And the movement, if you're zooming in or out, is really nice and really smooth. The focus is really smooth. And as I said before, the focus breathing's really well controlled. These are very sharp. They are not what I would consider to be character lenses, which are something a little more along the lines of maybe the DZO optics, which we will actually do a comparison of these compared to the Cataprime zoom lenses. One downside with most cinema lenses, and these aren't any exception, is there is no weather sealing on them. So you've got to protect them from bad weather. I have taken them out in some pretty bad weather, and I used something to protect them from getting wet rainfall in them. But yeah, these are not weather sealed lenses. So if you're going to go out in bad conditions, you're definitely going to want to protect them somehow. I'm not going to dive deep into the technical specs of these lenses. CBP just put out a video that's great, and it really goes over in detail the distortion, the focus characteristics, the apertures, sharpness, all of that. They did great. I don't think I need to repeat that. What I am interested in is what kind of imagery can these lenses produce? And if you look here, you see here, they produce some really, really nice images. They have crazy close focus distance, which is really nice for cinema zoom lenses. And especially if you're a running gun where you're not being able to change things a lot, having a really close focus distance makes it great. You can get really nice focus racks from something that's really close in the foreground to way off in the background. But not only that, what I like about these is they have a nice blend of sharpness. They're not what I would say clinically sharp, but they're also not something that imputes a lot of character to your footage. So if you're looking for something that has a real vintage feel, these are not them. But these do have a really nice, they've hit this really great sweet spot of sharpness with plenty of contrast, but not too much, that adds just a little bit of character, but also cuts nicely with G Master glass. So if I'm using something like my 100 to 400, and then I can cut into the 20 to 75 or the 75 to 180 with really very minimal amounts of difference. The coloring is really close, the sharpness is very close, but these lenses just look great. Another reason I wanted to get a set of cinema zooms like this size, smaller and compact, is being able to do gimbal work with them. And because these are short enough, small enough, and lightweight enough that you can put them on something like a DJI RS3 Pro or the new Crane 4 from Zhiyun, it's really great because then you can use these just like you would on a regular gimbal, but you don't have to get a much larger gimbal like a Ronin or something like that. You can use these on something that's more readily available to those of us who don't have tons of money for something like an Easy Rig. These are full frame coverage and they do a great job on an FX series camera or an A series camera. They really are nice, but one thing I really like that Laowa has been doing is when you switch a mount, because they have a lot of different mounting options for these, a lot of times in the past you'd have to shim the mount to get the focus markings to line up with where they actually are. So if you were going to set it for 1 meter or 3.5 feet or 3 feet 5 inches, you'd have to set it and then shim the lens. It's a long, extensive process to get the focus perfectly sharp on the marks that are on the lens. With this though, Laowa has included this back focus adjustment, which makes it really easy. You loosen a couple of screws, you tweak the lens till you get it where it needs to be, and then you tighten those screws down again. So that is a huge plus if you're switching this between different types of mounts. There are a couple of things that I always look for in lenses when I'm considering what types of lenses I need to get for a project. One is flaring, and these actually, I like the flaring. Now flaring is incredibly subjective and it really depends on the type of project you're shooting and what you want in the end, but I really actually liked the flares that came out of these lenses. And the next is bokeh, which is also somewhat subjective. Now, the nicer you're gonna have bokeh, the vastly more expensive the lenses are gonna be, but I found the bokeh on these to be really nice and just pleasing. The background does just tend to melt away. It doesn't have a lot of crazy hard edges or anything like that. And then off in the corners, yeah, it gets a little bit of a cat's eye, but that's pretty normal for most lenses. All in all though, I like the bokeh that these lenses produce. Now I did get the chance to compare these to some DZO Film Cata zooms, which are also really fantastic, budget-friendly cinema zoom lenses. And I'll be doing that in a video coming up soon, so if you want to see that, definitely be subscribed and keep an eye open for that, because there are some very clear differences between these two sets of lenses. All in all, these lenses would be fantastic to add to your kit if you're wanting to dive into small productions, documentary work, just generally upping your video game and whatever you might be doing. It's great that we can get a pair of zoom lenses that basically go all the way from 28 to 180 for under $6,000. I know $6,000 can seem expensive for a set of lenses, but it's actually a little under $6,000, but these things are punching well above their weight class when it comes to the performance versus the price. Shouldn't be surprising considering Laowa's experience in designing optics and lenses now, but they really do pack a huge punch for that price. But next you're gonna wanna watch this video right here. I'll see you over there. As always, if you have questions, ask me in the comments below or join my live stream, which happens most Wednesday nights from 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you again soon in the next video. Cheers.